Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about why the AR-15 will never be replaced on the US market for a number of reasons. We'll go over those reasons in today's video. There's a lot of companies out there putting out some really cool stuff, some innovative stuff, but it rarely catches traction. It's more likely to catch a hard time on the internet. And we'll talk about one example of that in today's video. And if you guys want a series of it's not an AR-15, but it's still a good choice, we can make a series out of that as well. But today's video, we're going to talk about why the AR-15 is just doing so well in the US market for very good reasons, and why it will probably never be unseated as the king of rifle sales in the US. All right, so let's get started shooting the M27. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. So first, let's talk about why the AR-15 M16 is so popular. It is America's rifle. By far, it exceeds every other rifle type being sold in the United States at any given time in probably less, well, we can't say 60 years. The AR-15 was still kind of not liked, trash talked in the 80s when I was growing up. It didn't come into extreme popularity until the late 90s, going into the 2000s and GWAT and all that stuff. It became extremely popular with a lot of companies making rifles. When I was a younger man, it was Colt. There were a few other companies trying to jump in on Colt's game, but they weren't as nearly as successful as Colt was. But that's a different video. So it's been America's rifle for quite some time. Today in 2025, almost 2026, as of this filming, you're not going to find a rifle that generates more sales than the AR-15. That's why we have 500 and some different companies making some flavor of the AR-15. So why is it so popular? Well, first of all, it's America's longest serving infantry rifle. It's been in service for over 60 years. On top of that, we still have NATO allies that are adopting various versions of the M16, either using Gene Stoner's internal piston system or using external piston systems like on the M27 that you see here. So it's still being adopted out there. Now, with the government use, that almost guarantees civilian sales. That's why so many companies chase government contracts. If they can get the US government to buy it, then their civilian sales will skyrocket because everybody likes to do what the government is doing. And that trickles down to a certain degree with law enforcement agencies. The whole reason .40 caliber became a thing was because the FBI adopted it and then police departments started adopting it. It's not that great of a cartridge. It didn't solve any problems. It was just different, but it went crazy for decades until it fell out of favor because, like I said, it really offered nothing that 9mm and .45 didn't already bring to the table. So now it's falling out of favor and you can barely give the things away. So a lot of that, again, is driven by what the government does. People want to mirror the government, but it goes well beyond that with the AR-15. So let's talk about a few of the reasons that I believe the AR-15 is still very wildly popular on the US market and why it's going to be nearly impossible, if not impossible, to unseat in terms of sales. First of all, there's 500 and some companies making the darn things. And the prices, this is key. The price is very affordable. We're living in an upside down world today when AKs used to be the affordable rifle and the AR was the expensive one. Now the AKs are the expensive rifles and ARs can be had for under $400 in some cases if you catch them on sale with various manufacturers. And that's for a complete rifle. Okay. So you're not going to beat the affordability of it. Couple that with the popularity of it. That alone makes it almost unstoppable on the US market. But then you couple in the fact that it's a well-proven design. Gene Stoner's gas system is absolutely genius, and that's why it continues on in military service to this very day. And you have countries like New Zealand adopting brand new M16s manufactured by companies like LMT that still use Gene Stoner's internal piston system. And that is a testament to the design. So you have the cost, the availability, so many different countries using it, the fact that the government uses it, and it's everywhere. Spare parts and companies that manufacture parts for it are everywhere. There's thousands and thousands of companies that make parts for the AR-15 to feed that entire market. And as my cameraman once said, you can have an AR-15, and if the world goes to complete trash tomorrow, you can pretty much go into, if you go into 10 American homes in a free state, there's a good chance you're going to find AR-15 parts in there you can negotiate for, barter for, if you need a part for your rifle. They're just everywhere. That, and the U.S. military has them. So there's stockpiles of parts and guns all over the country in National Guard armories and everywhere else. So just for the survivalist, it seems to make sense for any number of reasons, not just the ones that I've cited. What's I think is funny is the M16 is so cool and so awesome that when the Marine Corps went to look to replace the M16, they wound up with an M16. So that's why the M16 is so popular. But today I want to show you something as an example of a weapon system that is as good, and some may argue better, and some may argue worse, as an AR-15 in the civilian setting, right? You're never going to see this rifle replace the M16. This rifle is a Robinson Armament XCR, an outstanding rifle. We've talked about it in the past here on the Military Arms channel. It was entered, a version of it, into a government trial, but I believe because they didn't supply a BFA or something like that, it was thrown out of the trials. That was the SCAR program, but it's not going to get adopted probably, right? The U.S. government's committed to the M16, but this in a civilian setting is an outstanding rifle. So in the next segment, let's take a look at the XCR and talk about some of the features of it and why this is such an outstanding choice if you're one of those folks out there that loves the AR-15, no shade on the AR-15, but's just looking for something different. There are great rifles out there other than AR-15s that will serve civilians very, very well, both as range toys, fun guns, and more serious settings for self-defense or even shiznit hits the fan. Let's talk about the XCR. Bonk. So the XCR, why do I think it's a viable alternative to the AR-15 on the US market? Well, first of all, it's extremely high quality, 100% US made. And, Robinson Armament's been doing cool stuff going back to the M96, which this video is not about, but a rifle that I have a couple examples of, absolutely love. And then they went into the XCR when they did start to go after some government contracts. But this is a completely different rifle than the AR-15. To my knowledge, outside of the pistol grip and the fact that it uses 5.56 and Stenag magazines, there are no other parts that are compatible between this and an AR-15. But what it does offer are things that the AR can't, which is a side folding stock. Now, yes, the AR-15 can do a side folding stock, but you have to give up certain functionality to do it. Yes, I'm aware of the products on the market. This gun fires and cycles just fine with its stock folded. It doesn't require a buffer tube out here. It does have familiar fire controls that are in a place that are very similar to the AR-15. The trigger mechanism is not the same thing as an AR-15's trigger mechanism. As you can see, it's its own trigger. So there's no parts commonality there. Some of you may bring that up in the comments when I say there's very little parts commonality. The other thing I like about it is that the upper is all one piece of aluminum. So the upper and lower are all aluminum. So it's all metal like the AR-15, but it has a monolithic 1913 rail that runs across the top. It's not segmented like most AR-15s where you have a handguard that meets up with the receiver. This is all one piece. This entire upper is all one piece. It's very narrow. Very, very small, handy feeling. It actually feels smaller than an M4 rifle in my shoulder. Very lightweight. Again, all aluminum. Positive controls. You do have, the AR-15 style selector, which is ambi. You have the bolt release. Listen to me. Magazine release over here. Over here, you have an ambi mag release. Have a side charging handle that can also double as a forward assist. You can push in on this and grab hold of the bolt if it's not fully in battery and use it to push the bolt home. So it does have a forward assist built into it. It has a quick change barrel system. So you can just loosen this one big screw here and take the barrel out and replace it, which means also you can swap calibers and cartridges very, very easily in this rifle. Making this a 300 blackout only takes a few minutes with no special tools required. You also have the bolt stop bolt release right here that you can use. So if you don't want to use the charging handle, release the bolt, I push up on it, locks it to the rear. It's a non-reciprocating charging handle. When I want to drop it, it's ambi and present on both sides. I just reach up and drop the bolt. So the ergonomics on this are outstanding. So it's easy to use, it's lightweight. I found it to be extremely reliable. When we take it apart, you're going to see on the inside, this is very much related to the AK. And many of you watching will agree the AK system is a very refined system, not as the Soviets and the Russians have used it. It's a very crude system, but reliable. This takes it to the next level. It takes the positive features of the AK, which is that reliability and simplicity, and marries it with Western technology and manufacturing capabilities to make a superior weapon. So let's take a look next on the inside of this rifle, because this is something I want to show you. When we talk about taking the M16 AR-15 bolt apart, I want you to see how easy this XCR is to take apart. So one of the key features I absolutely love about the XCR is the simplicity of the design and how easy it is to field strip for basic maintenance. So going from a rifle that is ready to fire, I'm just going to check, make sure that chamber's clear, which it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit the disassembly button, which is right here on the receiver, which is part of the recoil spring assembly. So all I have to do is push forward on that with my thumb. It'll hinge open like an AR-15. It's held together at clamshells by 2 pins, much like an AR-15. Pull the bolt and carrier out. I literally have to hold them together because at this point the gun just wants to field strip itself. By that I mean, there you go, right? And so you do have a captive pin back here that holds the firing pin in place, but to field strip it, that's not necessary. Literally no tools required, that fast to get it apart. All right, let's contrast that to a standard mil-spec AR-15 M16 bolt carrier, in this case M16. All right, to take it apart, I get the firing pin retaining pin, which sometimes requires the tip of a bullet or some other tool to get started. Then I can get the firing pin out. I got to rotate the bolt back, turn that cam pin, pull it out, and there you go. And look at the size of the parts here versus here. So this is a very good system. Now I'm going to say that it's better than the AR-15. Well, the AR-15, guys, as I've already pointed out, is battle tested to the extreme. So it is a very reliable, robust system. This was designed in the 1960s. This was designed far more recently, in the last 20 years or so. I'm not sure the exact date that they started work on it, but in the 2000s. So this system is just a highly evolved AK, as I've already pointed out. I mean, you can see how it has the locking lugs, and it cams like an AK, but the AR-15 cams as well. Very simple. What's holding the two together is when the bolt retracts, it's in that position, right? So you just hold the two together like that. Literally no pins or anything necessary. Just extend that bolt, set that on top, and then you just slide that into the receiver. Does not get any more simple than that. So what do I think of the XCR? It's an amazing rifle, and I think it would suit most civilians just fine in their quest for finding a rifle other than the AR-15, if that's your goal, and I think it would serve them quite well. It's not as inexpensive as a budget AR-15, but you typically get what you pay for. This is a high-quality rifle. Now, there's one thing that I want to address, and that is people's, I can't say misconceptions because we just don't know what the future holds, but their belief that when shiznit hits the fan, kind of like what we just went through in 2020 with the pandemic, in their mind's eye, they think that government's going to collapse. It will never come back. There will be no accountability for any actions, and that the life from that point forward is going to be nothing but one big running gun battle. I don't think that's the case, and I'd be willing to bet money on that. We saw what happened with government shutdowns and people in rural areas being pretty much cut off from all sorts of stuff, groceries, everything. We found a way to survive without going rogue and gunning down our neighbors for their assets, right? And we weren't in running gun battles. I think what you need to take a look at is something a little bit more practical. What weapon will serve me well? What will be reliable, simple, easy to maintain, and something that I can have for a very long time that doesn't require special tools or anything like that. I think the XCR falls into that camp. Most certainly the AR-15 does as well. This is just an alternative, which is what I'm trying to talk about in today's video. One other thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the stock is that not only can you fold it, but it has a locking screw here and you can adjust it for length of pull, and that locks into place. You can lock it back down and you have a cheek riser here that you can adjust as well. But a rifle like the XCR, I think is an outstanding choice. And this rifle just has so many features that I really like, especially the simplicity of the action. It's incredible. And you can also get it in just about every cartridge known to man. The guys over at Robinson Armament are very proactive. When a new cartridge comes out, if it looks like it's getting traction, they're going to offer that chambering in this particular rifle. There's two different sizes. This is the small one, the L. They have a larger frame version of this that will chamber larger cartridges like 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, all that good stuff. You got this in 6 ARC, 760 by 39, 5.56, 300 Blackout, 6.5 Grendel. Just go down the list. If the cartridge has been in use, there's a chance you're going to find an XCR that chambers it. So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I mean, look, I love the AR-15 M16. I'm not telling you to get rid of it. I'm not saying it should be gotten rid of. What I'm saying is there are alternatives out there that are outstanding, and perhaps something like this would suit you better than an AR-15. Look around. The internet and the industry as a whole tend to poo-poo every single new thing that comes to market. Nobody wants to buy anything but an AR-15. I get it. It's popular. I don't even know how many of the darn things I own at this point. But there are alternatives, and I just say, hey, if you're in the market for something new, try stepping outside that box for a moment and go check out something like the XCR. If you like the concept of this video, we can talk about other rifles that fall into the same category that are good alternatives, and we can obviously do that series. Again, let us know down in the comments, folks. I want to thank you guys for following us for 17 years. We just came through Christmas. We're getting ready to go into the new year, 2026. I do want to wish you all a very happy 2026. Thank you again for all the support. If you would like to support us, you can go to our Patreon page. There is a link down below. You can also swing by, check out Copper Custom. You got the support button underneath the video player you're watching right now. All that helps us going forward into 2026. All right. Thanks, folks, for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.